I know there are some of you out there who have been asking about relationship between white and black and how that is like. So just like the title of this video, we are not beating around the bush today. This is why I married a white man. I had been in previous relationship prior to meeting Ted, and they were horrible. Horrible relationship. They were manipulative, abusive, and things that was just not good for my soul. And so when Ted came along, it was very important for me to see qualities in him that aligned with what I was looking for. And so today I just want to talk about some of those qualities. I hope that this video is of help to you on your journey to finding your long life partner, someone that you can call your own. So the very first thing was his values and my being on a mutual ground. And so if you are looking into going into a relationship with a white man, this is something to consider, or any man in general, this is something to consider. Do your values align? Is this man on the same vibe as you? Because if he's not, then there is a problem there. Something else that I noticed before deciding that I was going to say I do to this man right here was that we had healthy conflict. And so let's say if there was because there is no way you're not going to have conflict in a relationship. Two people coming from two different backgrounds, no matter what, there is going to be conflict one way or the other. But one thing that I loved about Ted was that we were able to have an understanding. Anytime we had a disagreement, we could have a healthy conversation and settle our differences, because disagreements will come, but it's about how you both communicate and how you both talk to each other and speak to each other. There was never any disrespect on how, he spoke to me. If there was something that he was not in agreement with, he was very gentle about it, and he spoke to me with kindness, and I really like that.
Yeah, and I think a big reason why we were able to communicate that way is because there was just a mutual respect that the two of us had, one to the other from the outset. And again, going back to the first reason that you mentioned, our faith and our values and all these things really kind of paved the way for communication like this to be possible. But that only works if you really are genuine about what you're saying. A lot of people in new relationships will say what they know the other person's going to want to hear, or what sounds nice or something like that. But then when the rubber meets the road, maybe they're not really as invested in those values or in their faith as they said. And so then not only is that going to become a huge problem because you need to be equally yoked, but your communication is immediately probably not going to be working because you were kind of stretching the truth about the fundamentals, about the foundation. And if a house doesn't have a foundation, it's bound to fall. So starting with those things, we were able to have that respect, taking into account what Paul teaches about marriage, what God teaches about marriage, and all these things. And we were able to say, okay, I respect you, you respect me, and it wasn't this thing that we ever had to really struggle with.
I remember I used to say that I don't want my significant other and I to ever argue. I want everything to be perfect. That was me when I was young, okay? But as you mature and grow, you realize that disagreements are a way of you knowing that, okay, either your relationship is growing or it's not growing. Because when you have a disagreement or like let's say a little argument about something, based on how the other person responds, you'll be like, okay, wow, I can't believe he just talked to me like that. Or based on how patient they are with you, it calms you, relaxes you, and you're like, okay, wow, our relationship is healthy, whatnot. You can discover a lot about a person when there is tension and there is like a moment of heating. You can tell exactly where their heart is and how their heart for you is. And so speaking of kindness, the third thing I would say that led me to marry this white man is that he treated me with kindness and generosity. There was a lot of kindness in the way he spoke to me, like I said, but there was also a lot of kindness in the way he listened to me, and the way he approached situations that I was dealing with. And there was a lot of kindness when I told him about my past and my experiences. He came with a lot of kindness. And when I would say things that I was dealing with, especially with confidence issues, he will approach me with kindness. I remember us going into town one day when we first started courting, and he took me into this store and he was like, pick what you want. I got some purses and I got some earrings, and I was like, that right there was so amazing to me. It showed me the heart that this man had. He showed me that he wasn't stingy. He showed me that he was kind. And also, there was a lot of sacrifices that you made that changed a lot for me. I was like, he was willing to take a flight from Oregon to DC. He did that at least twice. Okay. Coming to DC back and forth is not an easy thing. There are some people that when you are dating and they live across the street from you that you will barely see. They can't even get into their car to drive to your house. I dated a guy like that. Another thing that I really loved that made me want to be with you was that we both had a level of independence. I think that, you know, you had your own life with your friends and your family, and I had mine. I didn't want to completely be dependent upon you for my entire life. I wanted to feel like, okay, I was okay without, you know, you. And then I wanted you to also feel like you were okay without me. Does it make sense?
When we take breaks from each other, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you don't want to have this needy, clingy relationship where it's just like, oh, I will literally perish if you're out of my sight for 5 minutes. You know, that's obviously a very unhealthy kind of relationship to be in. And there are a lot of people that are in relationships like that. We knew that if we didn't base this relationship on God, then it was going to fall apart. Most people base their relationships solely on the other person. And that sounds reasonable. Yeah. It does sound reasonable. Like, well, I'm going to marry this person, so my whole life is going to be about this person. I mean, right? That makes sense. Only that's not actually how it ever really works out, because that is doomed to fail if you put that kind of pressure on somebody else, or if you expect somebody else to be able to satisfy, fulfill, and carry you through all the years. It's never going to work. It's going to break down eventually. So God was our foundation and he was our rock. And so that gives us the confidence to say, I'm going to take today and I'm going to go for a walk and I'm going to listen to my music and I'm going to just reset. You know, that's okay. And you too, when you need a break.
I do my thing, and then we come together and be like, okay, what did you do today? Oh, I did this. It's even healthy. You have things to talk about. I remember I knew someone who worked in the same place as a significant other because they couldn't be apart, and I'm like, how do you guys do it? Their relationship worked for them. So there are certain people that these might work for them. They said. Are they still together today? I don't know. I haven't. But there are some people that constantly have to be together, and that's their thing. But to constantly be on each other's neck and be like, okay, without you I can live, without you I can survive, to me that is really unhealthy. You need a balance. Boy, oh boy, this one is a little scary because it goes deep within myself. When we first met, I was a little scared about being completely honest about my life, my past, and my journey with you, because I just didn't know how you receive it. Oh, you mean sharing things sharing that you've been through. I wanted to be honest with you. And so this one is on the subject of honesty, being able to be honest with the person. And when we first got together, I was like, okay, is he going to be someone that if I shared my past with him, is going to use it against me eventually in a relationship? So I had a lot of fear in me about sharing my past. But I remember tiptoeing. And, you know, I would share one thing that wasn't too serious about my journey with him. And I remember him being so kind about it and so relaxed around it and so compassionate, I should say. And so that gave me the momentum and the zeal to be like, wow. Like, I was like an open book. And I know a lot of people have reservations about sharing about their past, but you gave me that strength to share. And so it was very important for me to marry someone that will allow me to share about my journey and be very honest with them. Well, it only made sense to give you that space and to be understanding about what you'd been through. First of all, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to get down on somebody else about their past as long as they have changed their ways and they're striving to do better, or they've stopped doing that, or whatever it is, because we all have past and you can't change that. Plus, all that stuff happened before the two of you knew each other. So for instance, if your significant other is telling you about somebody else that they were with intimately,
and you're going to get all jealous about it. Well, it's like, we didn't even know each other then. And that's not me anymore.
Yeah.
You know, now we're married and I'm striving to do better, but I'm just wanting to be transparent with you going into a lifelong relationship in marriage. And so to me, when you were opening up in that regard, I mean, all those thoughts were going through my mind. Plus, of course, going back to faith, like when Jesus died for us, it's because we have a past that's riddled with sin and stuff that we're ashamed of.
Yeah.
And so if he can have that kind of compassion upon humanity, upon an entire world of rebels against his throne, and he's God, then wouldn't it be pretty presumptuous and egotistical to have some sort of a judgmental attitude about what you wanted to share, or to not allow you the space to feel safe sharing?
One of the reasons, biggest reasons why I said yes to him the way I did was because he showed me that I could be honest around him and I wasn't going to feel threatened, belittled, or judged. And to me, that meant a lot. And I had never experienced that with anyone else. With other people, it was like, oh, really? This is you? Nah. You know, so they were not the ones, and the journey with them was just terrible. So Ted showed me a different kind of man. One other thing that made me want to marry Ted was like, Ted felt like home. He felt like, you know, I was a little girl in my parents' house again. I know that sounds weird, but that is where I felt the safest, in my parents' house. When I left my parents' house, it was chaos. But when I was in my parents' house, I felt the safest. And I can quite remember when him and I started dating and we would spend more time together in that short period before we got married. I always felt like he got my back like no other. I felt safe. I felt protected. I felt like he was going to speak up for me. I felt like if I was going to fall into a ditch, he was going to hold me. And I had never felt that with anyone else since I left my parents' house. I have to tell you that today.
Well, it's interesting that you use the example about feeling at home with your parents, because thinking about scripture, it says that your wife will cleave unto her husband.
Yeah.
And so there's that direct link of safety when you're being raised in a home that's full of love and godliness and support and encouragement and all these things. Naturally, you're going to want to be pulled directly into your future home with your husband in the same like environment. So
that is so deep, Ted. I never thought of that correlation. I never. So that is amazing. Anyway, keep going. I got too excited.
Well, I mean, it just kind of occurred to me, I guess the Holy Spirit speaking to my heart through your words, because I never really thought of it that way either. And a lot of you are Christians out there looking for someone to settle down with. It's really imperative that you get rooted in your faith, because you see that link. That was a spiritual link that existed that solidified our marriage. And we only just now, 4 years and a couple months, you know, into our marriage, just now made that connection that there was a spiritual reason on that level about her feeling safe with me. I mean, she told me before, you know, I feel so safe with you, but you know, it's like, oh, great. And it just kind of like, you know, move on to the next thing. But all of a sudden, and it can be directly traced back to our faith as Christians. And so it's powerful. This is going to carry you. These are going to be your wings that allow you to leave the nest and soar across the horizon into your husband's nest.
Exactly.
and have a wonderful, beautiful future together.
One more thing that I would say that made me want to marry you is that even though we didn't know each other for that long, 4 months, we had settled into a friendship. You became my best friend faster than I could even imagine. I felt like I could call you my best friend and you were going to protect me no matter what. You were going to protect me in rooms where I couldn't protect myself. And if there was a place where I was being discussed in an evil manner, you were going to rise up and speak for me. And I saw that in the earliest part of our relationship. And someone who asked me, how did you see that? There were tests that I was giving him, indirect tests. I was studying him, and he passed every one of them. You did. You were nailing things on the wall, because I would say something about how I was feeling, and you're like, well, this person can't see that. Well, if they can't do this, then they don't need to be in your life. I was like, okay. You were speaking with authority on my behalf, and I really like that. You mean a lot to me. You are my best friend for life, and not everyone has that. And so to have that is to have millions and millions of dollars. It's to be wealthy. And I feel like I'm so wealthy right now in my life. And it's because of your presence, Proverbs in my life, and our friends and family. But you've made my life possible. You've made a season in which I find myself possible. Sometimes it's not easy, but I love every part of it, because no relationship is easy. No friendship is easy. And I think that our struggles is what has made us who we are. And our struggles every day teaches me character, teaches me strength, and allows me to grow into the woman that God designed me to be. And so thank you for that. And thank you to you guys. Don't forget to like and to subscribe. And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
See you next time. Bye-bye.